keyboard here. And I'm going to give you some slides. I posted these slides online to our site, our Facebook site or whatever. So I have in the title Pinoy Identity, and I see there's no Filipinos here at all. But I'm recording this, and then I post it on there, and we can just get them to like it, or hopefully listen to the sermon. Obviously, I can feel the angst if you're working, and you can't get out of work, and you're required, and you're like the lowest one on the totem pole. That's probably why they're not here, right? Just remember to turn that on when you come back. So this is an opportunity to try and maybe reach out to them if they can spare, 30 minutes? How long do you think I'm going to speak for? So we can share with them. Think about them too. I still wanted to keep with the theme of the Filipino theme, OFW, Overseas Filipino Workers, and talk about your identity, which I see on the slide here. And this is a special, week or month or something like that for my kind of remembering my mom. And I'm going to work her into the sermon. I've been asked a few times, you're going to do a sermon about your mom, and I picked this one, so you'll see how it is as I've sort of hopefully merged everything together. Lori went to Montreal and was able to spend time with my aunt and all the relatives actually. And my mom was cremated, so they just kind of sprinkled her kind of somewhere in Montreal. And I'm going next week. My brother and I bought property in Burns Lake. Anybody know where Burns Lake is? North BC, like 11 hours from here. Anyway, lakefront property, and it was only like $26,000, which is like for 5 acres. And apparently, that's a lot. Yeah, for city folk, I'm thinking 5 acres. That's like the whole North Edmonton, but it's not quite that big. But I don't know what acres are. I know what meters are, right? So apparently, it's got 300 feet of lakefront access or whatever. So I took a bit of the urn, and I'm going to sprinkle on. It's really my brother's property, so he can kind of retire there and something. So we're going to do a kind of a special. So that's kind of happening next week. My sister did this. And I'm doing this special sermon I'm going to dedicate to my mom. But I wanted to work in the Filipino theme. So you can see in the photo here, here's a picture of somebody with no face, right? And then they're putting on a face. And I wanted to talk about our identity. And why specifically am I going to weave in the Filipinos? Well, their identity when they're in their country is different than their identity here. Is it? Or is their identity themselves? And what about their spiritual identity? So I got an idea how they're going to play with, and I'm also going to use a prop, I guess. But I just want you to think about that, our identity. So first of all, what I did, I'm going to work my mom into here, is I wrote a book in New Zealand in year 2000. So it's 12 years ago, long time ago. And actually in the front, I wrote a dedication to Mom. And that was 12 years ago. And what I'd like to do at this point is actually publish it. Like it's just sitting there, I just wrote it, whatever. So what I did is I put a mock kind of book together and with a lot of hard work of trying to fold things and print things on the proper side and stuff like that. And the front cover to make it tough enough so it doesn't fall off. It's like one of those, overhead sheets. Really, really hilarious. But anyway, I wanted something I could see what it feels like. I'm not actually going to print it. I'm just going to publish it as an ebook. So something that's just easy to do with free and stuff like that. And incidentally, if you guys like the book, give me your email address and I'll give you all free copies. Yeah? I don't know. If you put something free in the bookstore, people just think it's garbage. So you've got to put it anyway. So I wanted to do a memory of Florette. So this sermon really is dedicated to my mom. And I want to read to you what I did for the dedication. So I'm sort of doing this as a special. It's been 4 months since my mom has passed. And Lori went to Montreal. My brother brought a place in Burns Lake. This will be sort of my legacy or something to my mom, sort of giving her that. And then I guess my older sister will have to come up with something. But I wanted to read from you just the dedication. So I wrote this 12 years ago, and it's still very appropriate, right? To my mom, who's always told me to reach for my dreams and destiny in God. I owe her a lot of thanks for my life. She took her role on holy ground as vitally important as she introduced me to the Creator of the universe, the being with never-ending inspiration and love. His words are used a lot here because they're so very precious. to me. So then I go on and I describe, the title of the book is actually called Your Divine Destiny. And it says, reaching for your God-given destiny in God. So kind of like this photo here, cosmically unique. One of the topics I talk about is cosmically unique. So here's a shot from NASA, which is so nice. Obviously the cover of the book. I don't have to pay for this because they're all royalty free, as long as you don't change the stars or give NASA a bad name. You can use it wherever you want, which is kind of neat. They explored the galaxy. I have no idea where this is from. I should probably learn that. But some galaxy or something, So look at that. You think about how space is so huge. His creation is so huge and beautiful and all vast and stuff. And we're these infinitesimal little tiny people on a small little Earth in a small little galaxy and stuff. And you think, wow, does anybody know that I exist? Is there any reason for my life? Well, the idea is that you're cosmically unique. You are unique. There's no one identical to you. You are who you are. And I try and, go into detail about that. But God has made each and every one of us unique. And there's a purpose for our life. And there's a vision, and there's hope, and there's all sorts of, like a destiny for us. So I thought that's really, and a lot of people struggle with that. Say, no, I'm just like regular or something or other. But no, our purposes, our destiny is unique. And it's all based on Him. It's very much Him. So I wanted to go through a couple of scriptures here that I pull out. So in Jeremiah, here we see an example of one of the prophets, Jeremiah, that was told in 1 Jeremiah 5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, you were set apart. Like, wow, before this vast universe, this cosmos was created, Jeremiah was in the mind of God. That's pretty detailed, that's very unique. And it goes on to describe in Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. What a beautiful verse. You think, wow, plans for a hope and a future and prosperity, and He's thinking about me. And it's like, that's our Creator. This is an example, obviously, for Jeremiah. But nonetheless, it rings true to our life, too, that He has a purpose. He has plans for us. He has a hope and a future, something to run to, something to look forward to. And you read in the commentaries, it pulls out, about Jeremiah's life and why it was special and stuff like that. But we're also very special to God, each individual and each unique. So one thing that I pull out was called your shape. I thought, okay, here we go. Let's come up with some sort of acronym that's easy to remember so people can just go through and nice and flowery. So I said we all have a unique shape. And physically we do have a unique shape, but we all have a unique personality and spiritual shape, like everything that makes us who we are. So that's comprised of our spiritual gifts, things that God gives us, and we'll go through that in a bit in detail. Our hobbies and interests, stuff that we spend way too much money on, way too much time, we're not really good at, but we still do it, Obviously golf is one of them. If I was Tiger Woods, the next one would be natural abilities. Like he gets up there, his swing is like a horrible swing, but yet he gets, he's excellent, wonderful. Because he's got the natural ability. Same with Wayne Gretzky. Now, I like using that one here because we're Canadian. We know who Wayne Gretzky is. Say in the States, we're like, who? You watch him play, and I used to when I was a kid, and the guy was just creative, wonderful, like just really like he was born to have a stick and skates in his hand, just from birth. It's just mesmerizing to watch the guy. Such ability, right? So we have that innate in all of us. There's abilities to do things to just meet, above what's really normal, and you're just really excelling at it. And when you see people who play that, or even Pavarotti or Handel's Messiah, like some of these abilities, and you just watch that and you think, wow, that's a real ability, that's a real gift from God. So this is part of the natural abilities. Another one is personality. Everyone has a unique personality. And I love that because, you can have family full of kids, and every kid develops a personality and has it, from birth, and it's just neat to see that develop. The last one is experiences. Everyone has their path of life that they walk through, their experiences, and this is how we deal with things. This is how God works with us. Remember when we say, The man knows his plan or whatever, his path, but the Lord directs his steps. So that experience when you're walking through life and you let God into that, that'll develop who you are. And another example is I remember I was in Toronto and I was singing and writing poetry out in the middle of Lake Ontario there. And I was like, who is Mark Kaburski? Who is this guy? What did you do? Like, what am I? So I'm having this discussion as I'm learning how he created me. And I remember that every experience you have develops who you think you know who you are, but you're like, wow, I didn't think I would have done that. And that's a walk you have with your Creator, a walk you have with God. So those experiences are who you are. So one of the big key ones in there is spiritual gifts. And I break it up into 3 sections, and the Bible does, and we'll see in a few minutes the scriptures. Motivational gifts, ministry gifts, and manifestation gifts. Now all these are a gift of the Spirit, but they're sort of gifts. So they're given everyone is given kind of different gifts that are a little bit different, but it's all from the Spirit, right? And I'll go ahead and read a couple of scriptures here to give you some information about the gifts. So Romans 12, 6 through 8. We have different gifts according to the grace given to us. If a man's gift is prophesying, let him use it in proportion to his faith. If it is serving, let him serve. If it is preaching, let him preach. If it's encouraging, let him encourage. If it's combining to the needs of others, let him give generously. If it's leadership, let him govern diligently. If it's showing mercy, let him do it cheerfully. Another section, Ephesians 4, 11 through 12, talk about the ministry gifts. It was he who was given some to be apostles, some to be prophets, some to be evangelists, some to be pastors and teachers, to prepare God's people for the works of service, so that the body of Christ may be built up. And lastly, find in 1 Corinthians 12, 7 through 11. Now to each one the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. To one there is given through the Spirit the message of wisdom, another knowledge by the means of the same Spirit, to another faith, to another one gifts of healing by that Spirit, and also miraculous powers. To another prophecy, to another distinguishing between spirits, to another speaking in different kinds of tongues, still another interpretation of those tongues. All these are a work of the same Spirit, and he gives to them each one as it's determined. So we see the Bible talks quite a bit about spiritual gifts. And there's actually a gifting list that you can see that somebody laid out, and probably just from Scripture. So what I want to do at this point is turn into a teacher. I'm a prop now or something, or a high school teacher. And we're not going to run through this quiz, but I wanted to give you an opportunity, if you wanted to, this is homework, right, to go home and actually discover what your spiritual gifts are, if you like. If not, you can just throw it in the garbage. So go ahead and pass